Caution: resin model kits and aftermarket parts is hazardous to your health. When sanding or machining, wear a dust or fume respirator and clean all surrounding surfaces with a wet rag. Alternatively, wet sand surfaces submerged in a bucket or under running water. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the Tomoe Mami at YouTube with another model review. Today I'm going to be building my first large resin anime figure, casted by e2046 Mami from Madoka Magica. Now, I have read up on some tutorials and saw some work in progresses and asked some questions of other modelers. This is not a tutorial. This is my first time me exploring and having a go. I've been wanting to build a figure like this for easily 10 years, and I've been collecting tutorials and a couple of kits and just never had the courage. I scored this off e2046 for about $30 and thought at that price, and some of them are fairly expensive, it's worth going for it even if I absolutely mess it up or not finish it. So I got my confidence up, got it done, and now I'm very keen to build more. Now, when choosing the figure, I found it very important to A, find a subject that I like connected to a character that I enjoyed. 2, I wanted it sexy. 3, fairly decent colour separation, not too much painting. And 4, decals for eyes, because I reckon I would absolutely mess it up trying to hand paint it. Not exactly my thing, especially for a much smaller scale. Unboxing it, after looking on the website, they give you a parts breakdown, a picture of the instructions and everything, including quality checks. Unboxing it, I did see some large nub marks, which is the pouring points for the mold. A couple of flash marks, 1 or 2, very few bubble marks or little holes. That was all quickly cleaned up, but besides that, the fitting and general finish of the model looked good, and looked like it just needed minimal filling and a fair amount of sanding work. When I received this parcel in the post from e2046, which I find it to be a sufficiently good enough service, I got this large cardboard box, a bit of plastic, and the smaller orange box. No damage occurred. I think it's sufficiently well packaged enough not for any of the resin to be snapped. Really fine brittle resin is normally sticky tape to some sort of form of cardboard. Now, getting straight in the build, molds or casting resin requires the molds to be lubricated with a mold release agent, be it some sort of soap or oil or something. Not knowing what they used, it is highly advisable to soak the pieces in detergent water and give it a good scrub with a sponge. I allowed it to soak for many hours, gave it a really good wipe down, and as well as putting it in soapy water in the ultrasonic cleaner to clean out those hard to reach detail places that I may not be able to reach with a sponge or cleaning. In between cleaning the resin, it is advised to rinse it with clean water and dry it down with a towel or a tissue. I later let it air dry before the next step. Now, getting to some unfamiliar territory, I found the resin to be very soft. To remove the nubs, it was very easy as sawing it off or trimming it off with side cutters. Not the same as you would use for plastic modelling. And the rest of the nub was carved off with your hobby knife. Very easy and soft to do so. The rest of the nub was sanded back with a series of sanding sticks and sandpaper around 180, 200 something grit, going down to about 500 grit wet to make it nice and smooth with the rest of the surface. Be mindful and careful. The resin's very soft. It's very easy to gorge the material or cut into it, which will require putty. So patience and a fresh new knife is essential. Any pits, flaws, imperfections and air bubbles was covered in squadron putty and sanded back. It had a little trouble sticking. It wasn't too ideal. I think it's because it's designed for plastic. I've been advised to use polyester putty. Tomoe does it, as well as bog putty would work sufficiently, and 2-part epoxy glue. This will be used for my next modelling efforts. But for now, the seams did not work out too well with this putty. Once all of that was sufficient and I was happy enough with my cleanup, I did a test fit by snapping everything together to see how great or bad the seams would be. This was a bit of a struggle, as mentioned before, but I did the best effort as I humanly can and sanded it back to a smooth finish. All the points where it sticks together, even though that has a peg and hole butt joint style connection, was also pinned using a pin vise and steel wire, approximately 1 to 2 mil thick. When glued together later, this will produce a stronger bond, and it's less likely to fall apart, crack or break. Next, and this was quite a struggle, using blue tack and pegs and whatever I could, including attaching alligator clips to the existing pegs, I rigged this whole model up to be airbrushed. I sprayed primer, and some of the larger pieces I'll spray flat down and flip it multiple times just to look for further imperfections using Mr. Surfacer 500. This was sanded back, and a tiny bit of putty work was done. I found my method of airbrushing it was not very helpful or easy, so I drilled a series of holes in the area that will be glued together and used those 2-3 mil sized areas to attach the alligator clips to be rigged up for painting. Painting is fairly straightforward. This is the selection I've used. The primer is Tomoe white to complement the flesh tones, followed by Guy Note Surface EO flesh and the Mr. Colour character flesh. In my 10th Honing Your Airbrush skills, I'll explain more of the application of these paints and shading and applying to a flesh anime figure tone. Other things that I've attempted was liquid masking the eyes, masking around the hair, shading the hair, as well as masking tape for the lines across the bikini and the pants. In retrospect, to make things easy, I sprayed the bikini top and bottom first and masked it. Once the mask was removed and I was happy, I masked the area off with liquid mask, blue tack and tape. This was a bit tricky, and I was advised and will attempt next time to actually mask lower points first with tape and then other things around the tape. This would produce sharper and finer lines than the results I've got. It's not bad, but it could have been a lot easier if I sprayed the flesh first, masked that down, then done the clothing items. The hair and face, that wasn't a problem. That was executed in an okay manner. Once all the painting was done, I applied the eye decals. That was very straightforward and easy. The 2 decals were pre-cut, and it included the eyelashes, eyebrows, absolutely everything. The print of it looked quite nice and interesting. The colour does match the hair, and it is a bit weaker compared to other characters, but that's more of the flaw of the character than the actual decal set itself. Each piece was sprayed with a very light gloss and in multiple colours of matte to just give it a flat finish. And each piece where it's been pinned and assembled was glued together using just very cheap 5-minute 2-part epoxy bought at a $2 shop or a cheap store. The last thing that was done around the blush of the face under the eyes, I used a pink weathering marker to have the blush lines that you see a lot on anime characters. When assembling, I was pretty happy, even though some of the seams around the bottom, the sides of the breasts and the legs are slightly noticeable at angles photographed or displayed. It's fairly okay, unless you're really looking for them, they're not too visible. Not 100% happy about that, but for a first attempt, can't complain too much. I thought that I would have a lot of trouble with the hair accessories and the bikini ties. That glued on like an absolute dream, no problem. It came with its own little pegs and holes. Otherwise I would have just drilled my own hole and used a wire peg, so that made no difference. It is very fragile, so the hair could snap off, so I am very careful transporting it. The fingers I found to be very fragile. They could snap off. I actually had the pinky on one of the hands snapped off, but it's not noticeable whatsoever. I'll be a lot more mindful and careful in future. But besides my own internal commentary of my personal criticisms, and the fact that the paint jobs are a bit flat, it could have been more toning, more shading of the flesh and the clothing, including the hair. I am completely happy. I'm very content. I think I've absolutely nailed it for a first attempt. I think I can attempt more difficult figures. I think I could also organise some of the resin figures that I do have with no eye decals to get eye decals made up. That shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. Hand painting small areas like inside the mouth and the ring on one of the fingers was very easy. And overall, just from afar on general display, nothing competition related. Can't complain whatsoever. In the way of as a different form of modelling, so if I get bored of military or I get bored of gunpla, it is just a completely different style process of modelling to anything else I've done. There's no weathering, there's no panel lines, everything's fairly clean and sterile. There's other ways to attempt things. It was extremely refreshing. It was a lot of fun. I recommend for those who have a few kits under their belt, not afraid of resin, willing to jump in and buy something pretty cheap, give it a go. It was an absolute blast. I know there was a time when resin modelling was very big in the 80s and the 90s and it died off, but it was very expensive from original kits. But a lot of these Hong Kong recasters, it's pretty cheap. I can't complain whatsoever. There's plentiful and lots of kits out there. Just be careful what you're buying, that they're retribuable in a way where other modelers buy from them and get good results. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, stay tuned for more content. The last pick is the figure in question on display at Animanga with the Ghost of Xeon's first large-scale resin anime figure from e2046 in what I think everyone can agree an interesting photograph. Peace out.